just going to assume that that is actually working. Because whether it is or not,
this is where we are.
I don't know.
We've been totally distracted. Well, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us again tonight.
We are totally distracted. Because
It's been a long night. We got a new little puppy, and it's been running us rugged, to say the least.
Come here, Sadie.
Come here.
You want to say hi, Sadie?
Come here, girl.
Oh, she does.
Come here, come here. Come here. Oh, yes.
There she is.
There's the little pooch.
Yay.
Hi.
Sadie Mae. She's a little stinker. So she's been, yeah, she looks all sweet now, but she was a vicious attack dog just a little while ago. All right, Sadie, go play. Go play.
All right.
Okay.
So
we have got, we're not really sure what we've got for you because it may or may not work out as planned. So if you are somebody who gets highlights or lowlights, you get Balayage or Ombre, Sombre, Simba, Samba, I don't know what it all is. But if that's something that you do, how do you know what you're asking your stylist for? And do you know that you're asking correctly? Because you may book for one thing and walk out with another. Sorry, the dog is shaking the camera. So I thought that since I have zero clue, as you can see, oh yes.
Perfect timing.
Yep, her toy was in there. As you can see, I have no idea what all of that is. So do you want to go get the dog?
She's got the squeaky toy of all toys.
Yeah.
She's got the squeaky toy as soon as we got on live.
Yeah. So, why don't you grab that, because that's going to make me crazy.
Okay.
That's the beauty of doing live.
All right.
Maybe the girls can grab her. They wanted a dog.
Hey, Chrissy. I need you to take the dog and put her in your room for a little while, please. Yep, come and get her. We're doing live as we speak, so please. Thank you. Okay.
Take Sadie up with you.
All right.
All right.
So, here we go.
Okay, so here's the point. The picture I posted earlier, and I made a very funny joke and nobody actually picked up on it, was a picture of this woman with this beautiful transition in her hair, right? And it had, I'm distracted by what this says now. Okay. and my question was, pop quiz, what is this? Is this highlights, ombre, or baby lights? Which I had no idea what baby lights were until Dimitri told me. But I posted ombre, not as what it was, but ombre is the Spanish word, and nobody picked up on it. Nobody called me on it. Nobody, nothing. So that goes to show you that I have zero clue what we're getting. So tell me just a basic, tell me what's all the terms, because I know I made up a bunch of terms there as, you know, things that don't really exist, but like, how do I know if I want a balayage?
Okay, so that's very good, very good. You're getting there, baby. The truth is, you need to be a little versed on what you want to get when you go to your stylist. I know we spoke about this before, and once again, the importance of bringing a picture. I can't stress that enough. So if you don't quite know the terms, bring a picture. That's always helpful. So just to teach you guys a little bit about the differences and the different highlights.
Okay, so highlights, that's one term I know. Highlights. Mm-hmm. So I walk in and I want highlights. What am I going to get?
Okay. If you just say highlights, well, typically a lot of people like to get color with the highlights.
Nope, I just want highlights. I don't want color with the highlights.
Let me just explain why.
I'm just telling you as a customer what I want.
Some people call. It's going to be a long live. So she's in that mood tonight, but so some people call and say, I want to make an appointment with Dimitri and I want color. So the receptionist would just write color and block you out for about an hour. Well, color does not include everything. There's different kinds of color. There's base color, there's all over color, the retouches, toners, base breakers, and then of course there's the highlights.
Which is what I asked for.
Okay, so if you just ask for highlights, well, that's just what you're going to get.
Well, just tell me what it is.
Highlights are just getting to it, baby. But highlights are medium to fine strands of a lighter color than what your base is already. So,
so what would I get?
Well, depending, if you want to get a light brown, it's still lighter than the dark brown that's on your base. It would create...
So it's streaks, like from the root to the end.
Streaks are a very old term.
Well, whatever.
Yes, basically, yeah.
Like, do you pull it through a cap, or what do you do?
We don't use caps. No, it's
That's
a
what
lot
my
more,
mom used to use.
a lot more personalized now, a lot more detailed. So yeah, caps are a thing of the past.
Okay.
So, all right. So highlights are fine to medium strands that are lighter than what your base color is. So if you want it natural and you want it close to your base color, so it could look very natural, then you can go if you're dark brown like Denise is, and you want to look very natural, you can add medium brown highlights or light brown highlights. If you want more of a contrast, you want to get a little more fun, you can add lighter blondes.
No.
You can add reds. You can add whatever you want, whatever the contrast is. It's lighter than what your base color is. That's what a highlight is.
Okay.
So
then what are lowlights?
Lowlights are exactly the opposite of the highlights. And
This is confusing.
okay. Lowlights are used for dimension. Okay, so if your hair, for instance, is, you're getting highlighted over and over again. Well, you're never grabbing the same hair over and over again, so your ends start to get very light. All right, so you're starting to get the stripy look towards your roots, and the ends are getting very light. You want to break that all up again. That's the time to put some lowlights in between those highlights. Sometimes you want to put them underneath. Put more lowlights underneath than on top. You want to be darker underneath and lighter on top. It gives you more depth that way. So there's different ways to play around with it, with highlights and lowlights. But lowlights are typically the same color of your base color, and it's added in between your highlights. Or even if you are naturally like a light brown and you want to throw in some dark browns, that breaks up your natural base also. So typically lowlights are darker.
So do you have to add color with that?
Of course. Well, you don't have to add color, but the lowlights are color.
Oh, good to know. All right.
So
so highlights and lowlights, you can do those together. Tell me about this new term, baby lights, because I love the way that sounds.
Okay, baby lights. It's actually one of my favorites, and it's been around a long time. All right, they've come up with a cute term, pretty recent, but baby lights are very fine highlights, and I like to load up somebody who wants to have that natural blonde look, like the day you looked when you were young. So different tones of a certain blonde, for instance. If you want to be a natural looking blonde, 2 or 3 different tones of that blonde create a nice caramelized look, and it makes it look more natural. When it's a solid tone, solid color does not look natural. Natural is variations of a same color. So it would be like variations of different kinds of blondes.
That sounds expensive.
But when you make them really thin and they lay next to each other, it looks very natural. Typically, it's a little more expensive because you load people up with all kinds of different, of foils and different types of tones. So,
okay. So
those are the baby lights.
Okay. So we've covered the lights. Tell me what...
We haven't covered the lights.
Oh, well, that's what I know.
There's plenty more. But
the term that I like is balayage.
Okay.
I like the way that sounds.
All
it just rolls off your tongue. It sounds so sophisticated. Like, what is it? Can I get it?
It's French for hair painting.
I knew it was sophisticated.
It's French for hair painting, and it's personalized color. So typically the way it works is
personalized and French. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, it's brushed on very freestyle. You don't really put it on you can put it in a foil, but it's typically just brushed on very lightly. So it's a transition from your roots to your ends, where the ends are typically a little bit lighter. But these highlights, these balayage lights, are typically put in strategically in places where the sun or the light might hit and make it look natural.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it sounds like a lot of fancy terms for something like a lazy man's highlight.
You know,
I could be wrong, but I'm just looking as the outsider.
Well, if you think about it this way, highlights could be more like connect the dots, where you're weaving those highlights. You know, the balayage is a little more artistic. It takes a little more talent and a little more vision on your colorist part to apply it. So
I feel like I could do it.
It's more freestyle color, if that makes sense.
If anybody wants to volunteer, you can come see me. I'm going to balayage you up.
It's almost like brush strokes on a canvas, if you can imagine
that. Oh no,
that.
you've seen my paintings. You don't want me doing that. Anyway. All right.
So there's.
What about a sombre?
Sombre is like an ombre.
Oh wait, maybe we should do the ombre first because FYI, that was the answer to the question to the pop quiz. It was a ombre.
Let's start with the ombre. All right. Ombre is the French word for shading. So it's going from your darker base to a much lighter ends. So it's done in a way where it's melted smoothly to smooth contrast, so it's not like a hard line from dark to light.
Yeah, but I see those hard lines. Is that just bad ombres?
It's pretty much bad ombre.
It's a bad ombre.
So
sounds like a joke.
Yeah, there's a few secrets as to how a colorist would do a good ombre, but typically it's a big transition from dark to light. So it's a lot of fun. That's what ombre is.
So what's a sombre?
Sombre is a subtle ombre, which is basically whatever your base color is, like if it's a dark base color, you're going to a lighter dark base color. So, for instance, for you, you have the dark base color to begin with.
With gray highlights.
With gray highlights.
You're not supposed to say that.
Which you pluck out. So... She keeps telling me,
I'm not going to let it beat me.
I'm not going to let it beat me. Yeah. But that's okay because it doesn't double my work at home when I get home from work. But anyhow, if you have a dark base, it's a subtle transition to a lighter color, but not quite a big drastic change. So for your hair, you're a dark brown base. It would be transition to a lighter brown.
That sounds like...
Instead of a blonde. Ends. It would be like a lighter brown ends.
Okay. That's not for me. Okay. Well, what else do you have?
I think it looks absolutely beautiful and very subtle and very natural.
Okay, well.
It looks like those summer highlights are kind of growing out, which is very pretty.
I do like that beachy look. If I could get Mary-Kate Olsen's hair like that grown out, but I'm pretty sure that I'm past that stage in my life. It's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure you'd divorce me if I asked you to start doing that to my hair. Sounds like a lot of upkeep.
All right. So we also have the dip dye. Dip dyes are fun.
Sounds like dip dots.
They're a lot of fun. But it's basically just lightening the ends. And I know the styles now are with a lot of pastel colors, and people like to do a little dip dye with pastels.
So you have to bleach that out first.
Oh, absolutely. The hair. Yes, you got
to
bleach out the ends and then deposit the color in, just like any highlight. Very few blondes, for instance, have that perfect highlight coming right off the bleach, but it does happen once in a while. But anyway. So dip dyes are fun here and there too, but if you're going to do a pastel tone, there's such beautiful ombre pastels or, tones that you can use. It's really pretty, even the balayaged in. So
there you go.
Be careful. Make sure you really, you go to somebody who really knows what they're doing with those pastel tones, because it's very easy to fry your hair with that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right.
And then there's slicing, which are very, very thin highlights, put into your hair sparingly. It's not, there's not like a pattern to it. It's just...
How's that different from baby lights?
Baby lights are very, they're very fine, but there's a lot of them.
Ah, okay.
Got it. With slicing, there's just a few here and there.
Slicing, dicing.
Just to create movement, to create depth, slicing.
Sounds like a partial baby light.
So, and then of course, there's the old chunky highlight.
Which is out of style, don't do it.
Be very careful. Be very careful if you ask for chunky highlights, okay? So you don't want to get that skunked look, that railroad track type of thick, chunky highlight.
See a lot of that.
A chunky highlight is pretty if it's placed in the right places. Some more towards the front, some are put in there. It's a medium thickness, not too fine, not too thick. It's just that perfect medium thickness placed in the front or underneath to create depth. Along with a balayage or an ombre, putting a few of those here and there, really, a few hitting that, hitting a few parts on top by the base, and especially in the front, really very pretty. So, but just be very careful with those chunky
That's
highlights.
right, Jessica Nunn. Don't do it. Don't do it.
So,
all right.
And those are the differences. So, now that you know a little bit about it, and if you want something along those lines and you go to your stylist, you're more prepared and you know the difference between one and the other.
Or just come see Dimitri and he will take care of it. Right?
Or that. We always have that.
Or there's always that if you're local.
And
then you don't have to worry about explaining it. All right, so that's it tonight, guys. You know what? I think maybe next week we're going to talk about actually caring for those highlights, because that seems to be a big problem. Those highlights and that sombre, ombre, yada yada, gets washed out or gets washed in, and there's lots of things you can do to take care of this, because those things are a lot of money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sounds like, just all that explaining was like, man, I'm just ringing it up in my head as to what all that would cost.
Well, the good thing about ombres and balayage and sombres is there's less maintenance, because
Really?
you want that rooted look. You want that
Rooted look?
Rooted look.
Or the look.
So it's a little less maintenance. Typically, they're a little more expensive, but
They must be worth it.
they are worth it.
All right.
So.
All right, guys. Well, that is it for tonight. We are going to get moving because I've been on call.
Do we have a winner?
Winner, chicken dinner from last week. Oh, we keep forgetting to do this. Sorry. So our winner from last week who shared our video was Stephanie Meyer. So Stephanie,
Congrats.
Get in touch with us. We have got something to send out to you. Just send us a message. You can either send it to Dimitri or I, and we will get that in the mail to you. So we will see you all next week. If you have any questions, reach out to us.
Thanks
have
for
a good
joining
one.
us.